I think we are live here. I just realized it. Sorry, I'm just sitting here chatting away to myself, realizing that we are live here. Welcome into the Fantasy Pros basketball betting show for Betting Pros. We are talking bets for NBA and college basketball here. We got props. We got spreads, we got over-unders, and we're taking, most importantly, your questions live here. So drop them into the chat. I promise I will see them. Don't worry about it. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Joe, how are you doing here?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited for the NBA slate. I know we're going to get into that first before we get into college basketball. But like Tara said, you guys drop those questions, drop those comments. We definitely want to hear it. And make sure you share it with your friend, Tara. This show was so fun last week. I'm excited. I know we cashed a lot of bets. We talked about some things that we were looking for when those games kicked off for some live bets. Those came in nicely. So it's going to be a great show.
For sure. And of course, as Joe mentioned, the chat was pretty good too. You guys were dropping recommendations in there. We were talking through it, had some really good ones there. So again, make sure that you guys are active in there so we can get to them. But let's go ahead and dive right in. Because yeah, I'm ready to talk sports. It's been an amazing sports week in general. We're coming off a fantastic I feel like we could not have asked for a better national championship game for college sports. So riding a high here. Let's go ahead and start off with the NBA. And we've got a really good slate here. Let's go ahead and dive into your first bet there, Joe.
Yeah, I'm looking at the matchup here between the Indiana Pacers and the Boston Celtics. Now, I'm excited for this one. You're looking at a Boston Celtics team that has been able to win their last 4 first quarters as a favorite at home. So if you're looking to bet this one here for the side, I'd look at the Boston Celtics in the first quarter. But I've got a player prop as my favorite bet in this one. Peyton Pritchard coming in over 4.5 assists. Now, this is lighting up the charts over on the Betting Pros app, you guys, because he has every ability to get more than the 4.5, and laddering him all the way up to 8+ assists is getting him right around that plus 250 mark, which I think he has every possibility of cashing. So I took him over the 4.5 assists, but I would do the ladder. He's had 8 assists in the last 3 when the Celtics have been the favorite. He's also in that last game versus the Pistons was able to get 8 assists and 8 assists in the last matchup versus the Pacers, which was just back on the 12th, you guys. So I'm looking for him to have that nice solid night. The prop of 4.5 is just way too low in my opinion. So give me Peyton Pritchard over the 4.5 assists, Tara.
I love it. I was looking at this game here. This one is an interesting one too, because you got a little bit of a lower point total here. And spread decent, not too much. I feel like this one is one that has been shifting a little bit here. So I'm excited to look at this one as well. Diving into my first NBA bet here. It is going to be Zach LaVine over 18.5 points here. Right off the bat, I will say go with me on this one, guys, because I know that this might seem a little sideways at first here. Toronto at Sacramento there. Both teams here will be back-to-back. The back-to-back here, I like to target back-to-backs a lot, but targeting this one is not about the back-to-back so much. We got a nice over-under here of 224.5. Toronto 4.5 favorite here. Toronto coming off a near 20-point victory against Golden State. Poor Golden State there, unfortunately. They did cover that game, and obviously it hit the over. Sacramento coming off a loss to Miami where they did not cover but did hit the over as well. So looking at Zach LaVine, the reason why I'm targeting this one here is because his minutes were very low, and it didn't really have anything to do with the back-to-back. I was kind of curious, so I looked. Doug Christie said that it was about defense. They were trying to figure out something in terms of how to deal with the defense there. And they just ended up limiting Zach LaVine's minutes in the second half, played just 6 minutes in the second half. So sounds like he was trying to figure out some way to counteract Miami. And it didn't really quite work out there. I don't really see his minutes being limited again, and that's good news for us because that naturally is going to give us a situation where he is coming in fresher in this back-to-back here. We often don't see like a typical, I don't really see any typical back-to-back tendencies from Zach LaVine, but this does help us give a little bit more of an edge in terms of targeting him. And I ask you guys to go with me on this because he's been nailing those unders. They've been coming through very consistently. I was looking at if you just straight up bet Zach LaVine's unders over and over and over again. You're up. You're doing good. You're making money there because it's been happening all season. And then he's also hit the under 8 of 10 times in the past 10 games there. So again, when we're looking at it, though, it's not as if he's massively underperforming. He's just coming in slightly under those lines there. The lines have been just a little bit high. When the line has dipped below 20 for that, he has hit it 2 out of the last 3 times the past 10 games here. Oddly enough, those 2 times were higher scoring games. But again, when we're looking at this situation, dipping below 20 points here, feel pretty good about it. Now, looking at the matchup again, Kings probably chasing points here. Spread really isn't that significant, though, coming off the back-to-back. Neither one of them have a super good track record here. So looking at projections, the game is projected to hit the over there. That'll help us out as well. So we're talking about a game that should hit the over, should be relatively close, not a really, hopefully not a blowout here. And then again here, we should get more minutes naturally from him in this matchup here. Also looking at the matchup specifically, this is not the best matchup in the world for guards, but they have been hitting their props in this matchup here against the Raptors, 10 of the past 7 games here. So it's been a little bit friendlier recently. So fresh legs, maybe a little bit of frustration from Zach LaVine because of the limited minutes in the second half there, lowered prop line. I'm going to take the over here on that one.
Oh, I love where you're going with that one, Tera, because you look at the Toronto Raptors, they're dealing with quite a few injuries. I don't think RJ Barrett's going to hit the court tonight. He is probable, but Pirtle as well. I don't think we're going to see either of them out there, which actually gives the Kings every ability to keep this one within that number. And also, they could pull off the upset here. So I'm looking for a higher scoring one as well. So I love this team getting healthier, and I do think a home dog, it's interesting, right? So Zach LaVine, I love him there at home.
It's funny. We like the overs here. I don't feel like, off the top of my head, I don't feel like we were overly over friendly last week. So it's funny. As I was looking at our bets, I'm like, oh, we're expecting some points. We're expecting things to start going here on this later. So feeling good. What do you got for the second NBA bet there?
Okay, so I'm going to turn to the 8 p.m. Eastern matchup between the Atlanta Hawks and the Memphis Grizzlies. And I'm looking at this one, and I'm looking for Ja Morant to really step up. Now, we know all the rumors around him and what's going to happen, and we're not sure, but I do think he plays a really solid game in this one, comes out big here for the Grizzlies and gets those points on the board. Now, you look at him, his point total is only 19.5. This number just looks way too low. He had in that last game versus Orlando, he was able to put up 24 points. He's had 27 points or more in his last 3 meetings versus the Atlanta Hawks. I couldn't work out why this number was so low at the 19.5. Unless they really just think he's not going to have the motivation to play a hard game in this one. But I do think he will. He's gone over this number in 3 of his last 4, and I just can't trust the Atlanta Hawks. You know, this is a team that's lost their last 3. I don't think their defense is going to really be stepping up here, stepping in front of Morant, and I think Morant can go over the 19.5. So I'm rolling with it. I'm also rolling with Memphis in this one. They've won the last 8 first halves at home, and I do think that's where I feel more comfortable betting them instead of the full game. So I'll look at Memphis first half.
Yeah, when I saw this one, I loved it. Conceptually, exactly what you were saying. Because obviously, all of the audio leak and off the court drama and stuff, and kind of feeling like, okay, you know, this maybe doesn't put, you know, Memphis in a weird situation. You know, are we looking at Ja Morant on the move? You know, what's the future here looking like? What's his mindset going to be? Naturally, coming out there, you know, some players could be a little bit more frustrated, underperform. I think he's going to be motivated because that was not a good look for him. So you got to get out there and put up your best performance here, especially if you're, you know, if you want to appeal to people as, you know, potential trade targets there as well.
Which he definitely does, right? Like he wants to find a new home. He wants out of Memphis. So step up, perform, get us his cash, and then go somewhere else, right? Be happy.
Yeah. So let's ride the positive there of him just pushing forward and saying, all right, let me be on my best behavior and get out of here. My second bet here, I'm going to go with a prop for points, rebounds, and assists here for Miles Bridges, Cleveland at Charlotte. This one was really interesting because I feel like there were a ton, and we'll talk through it. Like, I feel like there were a ton of ways that you could have attacked him specifically. in this one. But I chose points, rebounds, and assists for a very specific reason. So I'll get to that in a second there. But the game itself, we got a very nice point total here at 236. I believe it's the highest on the slate. I should have verified before off the top of my head, you think. But yeah, now it's projecting for the under like slightly, but by a very slim margin here. We should get a very favorable pace in this one. So expecting points in it. Cleveland, a 3-point favorite there. This line here for Bridges, 26.5 is tied for the lowest the line has been in the past 10 games. And it happened 2 other times, and he hit the over in both of those times that it was at this line here. So we like seeing it come down a little bit there. Bridges is coming off of 2 games where he hit the under significantly, but there's a logical reason for that. It's not as if there were massive struggles for him. He was just in limited minutes because those last 2 games were back-to-back games on the road at Golden State, at Denver, where he played 29 and 22 minutes. That Golden State was a 20-point loss and then blowout win against Denver there. So lopsided situation. So we like this getting a more even matchup here to help ensure that we don't get any weird minute situations there. So when we're looking at this, we should get him back above 30 minutes in this game. Fresh, rested, feeling pretty good here. Overall, this was my favorite prop to bet here because he's hit the over in 9 of the past 15 games. And when you can clearly just identify and justify why he hit the under in several of those games, it makes it even stand out even more there. So this has been somewhat of a favorable matchup as well. We've seen that, when we're looking at forwards in this matchup against the Cavs, it's been favorable for hitting the overs. And the reason I said that I was leaning towards playing points, rebounds, and assists there for the type of prop that you are betting. While I do like multiple props with him, when we're looking at the Cavs defensively specifically, they're pretty even across the board. But for rebounds in particular, they are a friendly matchup for forwards. So you could go just rebounds. That's not a problem if you want to go that direction, but we get better odds for PRA on this one. You could also go points plus rebounds. Pretty cool. Same odds. I don't have a problem with that, but PRA is the direction that I prefer to go on that one. So feeling pretty good about this bet here.
Okay, I feel good about it too. And then I want to ask you a question. How do you feel about looking at those trends for a player for that first basket? Because we got Jarrett Allen here. He scored the first basket in the last 2 games between the Cavs and the Hornets. He's coming in at plus 640 for that first basket. Is this something you're ever diving into, Tera?
Oh, I would say I'm a fairly conservative bettor on that one. So I do not, it takes and obviously, guys, I do a ton of football stuff, and it takes a lot within me to even get to the point where I will do a longest receptions prop. I'm very straightforward and standard there. So no, I don't touch this one, but I do find it very intriguing. Those numbers are very appealing there, and I do like the trends there.
Yeah, I love the trends and I love looking at the numbers, and then I love watching it to see if it actually cashes, because you can get in and out of something that quick, but I never actually pull the trigger. So this is something that's going to make my radar. You guys are going to be seeing if Jarrett Allen can get that first basket out there. If he does, I'm going to be kicking myself because it is plus 640 on the books right now. But if he doesn't, I'd rather have that pass on this prop. But I love where you're going with yours, Tera.
Nice. Love it. All right, guys. So in terms of NBA, that covers it. We'll circle back around because obviously we hit on several of the games here, but there were a few that we did not hit on. So as we have more time, obviously we can go back, look at a few of those as well. And if you guys, as a reminder, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you have any bets that you like, any players that you want us to look at, we can always go through, look, if you have any trends that you want us to look at as well, like Joe mentioned, we have all the tools and everything. I've literally got BettingPros pulled up right here on the side. So if you have anything, I'm more than happy to look at it. I know Joe is often looking at live line shifting as well. So yeah, just go ahead and drop anything that you got into the chat there. Moving on, let's go ahead and jump into the college bets here a little bit. Now, college, college is so funny. We try to keep it at a little bit of a higher level in terms of Power Five conferences, just to kind of like reel us in there, because obviously when you're looking at, especially tonight, when you're looking at like the slate as a whole, I mean, it's just like a ridiculous amount of bets there. But I like the ones that you got here. Let's go ahead and start off with you, Joe. What's your first college bet here?
Well, I had to look at the dogs tonight. So, you guys, I absolutely love betting the dogs in college basketball and across all sports. So, I looked at Memphis plus the 5.5 versus Tulsa. Now, this is going to be a hard matchup for Memphis for sure. They're going to have to limit those turnovers, because if they get into the turnover trouble, they're going to see Tulsa run away with this. This is a Tulsa team that can really put those points up on the board. They're averaging 88.3 points per game, 18th overall, and they're only giving up 72.1. So this is a team that is so balanced on both sides of the ball. But I do think with the way Memphis is able to hit those threes with McDaniel, if they can come out, if he can play a solid game, hit from the perimeter, we have a chance of keeping this one within the number. When I looked at this game, I thought it was going to be closer to a 3-point spread. So I had to jump on Memphis plus the 5.5. This is a team that needs to, if they limit those turnovers, get the 3-pointers on, they're averaging right around 74.5. So their defense is going to have to really step up. Their defense is solid as well, only allowing 72.7 points per game. So their defense has to come to play. This has to be a lower scoring game for Memphis to be able to cash. But I'm taking Memphis plus the 5.5, Tara. I'm going to hold my breath in this one.
Oh, I love it. We've already, I'm not only the only one that loves it here. We've got Jerry Davis in the chat here saying, on Memphis at +6 and the money line as well. I love that. Yeah, I like it. At +200, nice and bold there. I feel like college basketball is always going to get a little bit fun in terms of the money lines there as well. Moving on to my first college bet here. It is going to be Notre Dame at North Carolina. Talked about North Carolina last week. We hit on the over of North Carolina versus Stanford here. So we are going to run it back there. So when I'm looking at this game here, there's a lot going on in terms of these teams, because they are two opposite sides of the spectrum here. North Carolina, ranked team, obviously. They're at 11.5-point favorite here. We've got a 148.5 over under for this. The line has been shifting upward. It opened 3 points lower here. So that is very interesting. My lean is towards the over. I mean, quite frankly, it might have shifted by the time as I was, preparing for the show here. But my lean is the over on points here. And I will explain why. And it's heavily due to the fact that I like North Carolina a lot, but I do not trust them to cover. When we're looking at North Carolina, very balanced team here. Obviously a little bit stronger on offense there. Ranked 36 in offensive efficiency, 53 in defensive. Notre Dame, though, they are quite the issue here. I mentioned they're two opposite sides of the spectrum here. Obviously, they struggle on offense, unfortunately. 108. It's not an overall struggle. It's more of a massive consistency issue there. On defense, they're kind of more so on par with North Carolina. But in between us last talking about North Carolina, they did lose to Cal 78-84, but that game also did hit the over here. I just like targeting North Carolina for the overs here. They're a very good team to target the overs on point totals here. The offense is clearly on an upswing here. They've scored a minimum of 70 points in the past 10 games. They are actually extremely trustworthy outside of one bad game against Michigan State to kind of eclipse that on a regular basis there. They've been pushing recently upwards towards 90 points, around 90 points. And their defense, unfortunately, it's a little bit inconsistent there. So it's also been just a good recipe for the over. And I like targeting them for the overs because, again, I do not trust them to cover the spread, unfortunately. They failed to cover the spread in 5 straight games. They have been given a very lofty line here. And it's lofty, like it makes sense. It's lofty because Notre Dame has been bad. Unfortunately, they're on a 4-game losing streak. They are plummeting. And the games aren't really close. That's the major issue here, which instinctually might have you. And I think a lot of bettors are also leaning towards the under here because of Notre Dame. Unfortunately, they're in their inconsistencies, losing streak and whatnot. They just lost to Virginia Tech 76-89. So again, North Carolina should have no problem on this one. The issue that I have there is that, again, their defense inconsistent. And then also, this is the first time that we have, when we're looking at Notre Dame, obviously they have been losing. They have also been failing to cover the spread, but this is the first time where the spread has jumped up to double digits for them. So I get a little bit weary betting this level of cover there just because it's such of an aggressive jump. It feels like the baked in advantage that we've been getting against Notre Dame is being taken away from us because of obviously, North Carolina being much more highly competitive here. The only concern that we could have here is that Notre Dame's defense, our offense lays an egg, but North Carolina's defense is struggling. So I really do feel good about the over here. I don't hate betting North Carolina to cover. I think that's where the majority of the money is. It makes sense. Again, Notre Dame is just flat out awful. But at the end of the day, the failure to cover the spread and the distance between, like, just the point total, it just makes me a wee bit worried there. So I prefer targeting the over on the point total here on that one.
I like where you're going with that point total. Now, Jerry in the comments is saying he's going to take North Carolina team total under 84. Currently, I'm seeing across the books 81.5, Tera. I like North Carolina over the 81.5. I do think they're going to be able to get there. And I was looking to open this, and then I saw Jerry's comment on the under 84.5. I think they can go over the 84.5. I think it's a solid way. This North Carolina team, like you said, the defensive issues, but offensively, they're going to put the points up on the board. I don't trust Notre Dame here to come out and limit them. So I'd look at the 81.5 to the over. You're going to lay some juice at minus 118, but the full game over, it should be able to get there as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'd pick one of the two there just because I don't mind, like, I'm not bold enough to do it, but I don't mind betting Notre Dame to cover there just because, again, it's such an aggressive spread. And at the end of the day, North Carolina has just failed on that end. But I do think that if we end up with Notre Dame being able to cover, probably going to go towards the over there on the points for both the teams. So yeah, I'm with you. I think I lean towards, continuing on with UNC with the over there, but I don't hate betting Notre Dame there to cover, right? Yeah. It's just very aggressive there. Let's move on we'll jump to the chat here in a second because we got some good ones. We'll hit back on NBA here, and then we can take another look at, we got a question about West Virginia and Arizona State, which is very interesting. I talked about Arizona State last week. But before we jump to that, let's get your second college bet there, Joe.
Yeah, I'm rolling with another dog, and this dog, Tulane, here is 10.5. So you're grabbing the plus the 10.5 versus Florida Atlantic. Now, when we look at these teams last season, we saw Tulane actually win both of those matchups, and it's because of the style of defense they play against Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic's one of those teams that plays heavy pick and roll, right? So you're looking at Tulane, they frustrate FAU, and they have the ability to keep games within the number, if not win it up right now. I'm going to look at them plus the 10.5, not brave enough to grab them straight up on the money line because they do struggle badly against the glass because of the style of defense and zone here that they do play. They're not getting those rebounds. They're not applying that pressure defensively under the rim. So I do think here Tulane plus the 10.5. If anyone out there likes them straight up on the money line, let me know. But you're looking at a Florida Atlantic team that has won their last 5 home games, is solid at home. They got a great offense, but I think Tulane keeps it within the number, Tera. It's going to be a battle out here between these two teams.
I like it. I can get on board with it for sure. Moving on to my second college bet there. I am keeping it in the ACC. I'm just going to stay loyal to the brand at this point. I'll venture outside of the ACC bets. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? On this one, Virginia Tech at Syracuse. Nice competitive game here. Syracuse, a 3.5 point favorite. It opened at 2.5 points. A hefty point total here at 151.5, which might surprise you guys. Spoiler alert, I am leaning towards the over on the point total there, and I will explain why. I've gone back and forth on this one, right? Because again, we've continued to see this line shift upward. When I picked the over for it, this was not the line, so we've been seeing it move upwards there. Virginia Tech, though, My confidence in the over here is on Virginia Tech. Senior there, Toby Lawal returned a couple of weeks ago after missing all of the month of December and a little bit more there. And it seems like he was just kind of acclimating. So perhaps Virginia Tech, their offense, which is kind of like middling to start off January. And perhaps they were just kind of, obviously you get into ACC play, they're trying to reintegrate somebody who has been out. They're not giving him his normal minutes because obviously they're not trying to put too much on him to really, they're in this for the long haul, right? They're not trying to put too much on him immediately there. We finally saw that ramp up this past weekend. He is coming off of his best game of the season with 22 points, his minutes finally pushing up to a normal level. Again, you could see he was just a little bit limited on that end, and I think it kind of put them into a weird spot. That's definitely something. If he's back to producing at this level, and this was a season high for him, to see him do this in ACC play was very, very encouraging. So the over here is more on the shift of Virginia Tech pushing forward offensively here. And again, we're seeing them coming off of a good game there with the 22 points. They beat up on that Notre Dame team that we were talking about here. So they're coming in with a very positive, hot streak here. Syracuse is coming off of an ugly loss to Boston College. But outside of that one ugly loss, they've been putting up good numbers this month with 80 plus in the past 3 games from outside of that Boston College game. I'm almost inclined to take Virginia Tech to cover on this one. I can get on board with it because I think they can build on this win and make a push there because neither one of these teams can afford to fall much further behind in ACC play. And I've got confidence that they're both going to push forward offensively here and hit the over on this one.
Okay. I can roll with the over in that. I think it's a little light. When I first looked at that game, I thought it would be a couple points more. I think it's going to be a tight battle, though, between those two. I'd grab the points. I wouldn't lay it. So I got to go with grabbing the points, and I'll get on the over with you, Tara.
There we go. We got a couple from, let's see, jump here to the chat here from DeMark O'Day. Who you got? West Virginia versus Arizona State. And I guess Arizona State, 1.5 point favorite there. This one is interesting. I actually talked about Arizona State in Arizona last week. And they had a good game. They pulled through well against Arizona. I thought that it was going to be a situation where they were going to hit the under. They pulled through well offensively. So maybe they're getting into a little bit more of a offensive rhythm there. So I can lean towards Arizona State on that one. How about you, Joe?
So I looked at this one, and looking at West Virginia, I haven't seen them be able to get a win on the road, Tara. This team is struggling away from home, and I do think it's a tight defensive battle between these two teams. I was just trying to find the line on the total in this one because I do think it's a 1 point game either way. So it's going to be a hard battle, but I just can't trust West Virginia, right? I don't want to lay it. I would look for this one for a live betting opportunity. And I'd also look at that total. If these teams get off to a hot start, what time is this one kicking off, Tara? You know, we've got 100 games today. I've been scrolling through my page here with all the odds, and I just can't see what time it kicks off.
9 p.m. EST.
Okay.
No, wait. That's why wrong. Yeah. No. 9 p.m. EST. Yeah.
Okay. So what's the total on this one?
It is 145.5.
Oh, hard under. I was thinking, 62-61 style game. That's a high total for these two teams.
It is. Projections are super close on that one. Yeah. Looks like they're very interesting. Looks like there is a decent amount of money on West Virginia, but I'm with you. I lean Arizona State on that one.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to trust West Virginia on the road. If they were at home in this matchup, then I'd be looking there. Plus the points, but then you've got a home dog, right? So I'd have to go on the other side. I'd have to lay it, Tara. Don't want to do it. I don't want to look for that run. I want to look for the live betting opportunity. That's for sure.
Yes. And then the other one that we had from Demarco Day. I gotta say your name right, Demarco Day. Should I grab Texas as the 7.5 dog versus Kentucky? Spicy there. Let's see. We've got for this game. Yeah, I don't mind this one. Very interesting though. Looks like projections are, but it's close there. Projections for me are showing 9-point win for Kentucky. But honestly, it's super close there. We are expecting really good points in this matchup here. Kentucky has been a little interesting against the spread. Kentucky at home. I don't know. What do you think on that one?
7.5 right now. It's a lot of points. I love grabbing the points with the dog. 7.5, I could get behind. Maybe Texas first half. I like Texas's ability in the first half to hang tight here. I think they should be able to with Kentucky. That first half spread, I just pulled it up, is 3.5. I like that. But than having them play the full game and, with Kentucky pulling away in that last couple possessions. So I'll take first half here with Texas. I think it's a stronger way to go.
Yeah. And then shout out to Jerry Davis. Hey, we can all cash. Yes, we can. That is what we're here for. Everybody cashing on that in. All right, guys. We can jump back to NBA here for a second. But before I do that, just as a reminder, guys, I want to remind you all about the Betting Pros Discord. If you are looking to up your game in sports betting, join our exclusive sports betting Discord community at bettingpros.com/chat. Not only can you connect with expert handicappers who provide free picks for NBA, college basketball, NFL, MLB, NHL. I mean, my God, covering the whole array there for you with player props, live betting, and more. But now you can participate in our weekly community picks. Very fun, guys. Cast your vote and see how your picks stack up against the experts. Track your success. You can't ask for a better opportunity than that. So if you are interested, join the Betting Pros Discord. Lots of fun, active chats. Good place to be for sure on that one. All right, here. As we are going through, as a reminder, guys, appreciate you guys in the chat here. If I miss any of your comments, feel free to drop them again, but I think we're up to date there. But looking back, because we talked about looking back at the NBA bets here, because again, good slate here, obviously. But looking back here at some of the games that we did not cover here. Wanted to go over, there we go, Knicks and the Nets there. We didn't talk about that one there. That's an interesting one. Obviously, I feel like we didn't talk, so maybe we're anti-Knicks. No, we didn't talk about the Knicks. We didn't do any Knicks bets last week. Now that I think about it, I can't remember the last time that I did one for the Knicks specifically. So maybe you've just been tilting towards everybody but the Knicks. I don't know there. Which is weird because I do like them as a team. They're not my favorite team. My favorite team is the Spurs, FYI, on that one. But
no.
But the Knicks versus the Nets on that one. The Knicks, pretty decent favorite here, 11.5 point favorite, over under. And this one is 220.5. It has dropped since open. So I found that one very interesting. Dropped by 4 points there, plummeting on that one. So that one's very interesting. Anything on that one that you're interested in?
Yeah, you talked about that total drop, and also looking at that line for OKC, it's up to 12.5 on some of the books, and I'm shocked by that. I do think the Nets, even though they're not great, right? You look at the Brooklyn Nets in this defense, they absolutely struggle out there, but you're giving me them plus 12.5 right now. At 11.5 that it was earlier in the day, I wasn't absolutely loving it, but at 12.5, I think it's worth a play here on the Brooklyn Nets. I do think, though, it's going to be the New York Knicks that put up the majority of the points here. They've won the last 12 meetings versus the Brooklyn Nets, and I'm looking for Karl Anthony Towns to really step up in this game, and Jalen Brunson. So I do have player props that I've already bet in this one. I looked at Karl Anthony Towns over 21.5 points. He's had 25 plus points in the last 6 versus the Nets. He's coming off the last meeting, putting up 37 points. So I looked at him for a solid night here. Again, weak defense for the Nets. Your only worry with looking at Knicks props in this one is that they get off to a big lead and kind of rest guys at the end of this game, so putting us in jeopardy. But I do think Jalen Brunson has to have a solid night here tonight. So his prop is 25.5. Took that to the over. He's gone over in 9 of his last 15. Now, he came back from that ankle injury, and back from that ankle injury the other night, he had a terrible shooting night, but was still able to get 22 points up on the board. He went 9 of 22 or 24 from the field, Tera. So as long as he has a better shooting night, we know he averages 28.1 points per game on the season. He can nicely clear the 25.5.
I like it. I like it. I like that. Those specifically there. I think if I had to pick and choose one thing, I think the over on this one, because as I've looked, it's dropped even more. And when I made these notes here for us, it was at 220.5. It's dropped by another point there. So that one, I think, as we continue to see that drop and just kind of hitting the over there, it just makes a ton of sense on that one.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I would definitely take the over. It should be a solid game between those two teams, and one where the Nets can keep it tight. So if the Nets are putting up their share of the points, we're going over in that game. It'll be a fun one, Tera. We've also got some movement in the Cleveland-Charlotte total. That's interesting to see. So that one, some books have it at 238.5 now. It's starting to fall down to the 238. So it's dropping by a half a point. It's dropping really quick here as all the books are continuously moving that number as we speak.
Yeah, that one is very interesting too, as well. Another one that we did not cover there, Pelicans versus Pistons there. Pistons are they were a 7.5 point. Oh, that's interesting. They were they're a 9.5 point favorite here. They opened at 7.5, so a little line movement on that one. Over under when I made my notes here, 230.5. But looking here, it is now you can get it at 228.5 here. This one is interesting. Again, between this one. So again, this one feels like we are seeing decent shifts on this one. I don't know if I have a lean. I think I would lean towards the over on this one. I'm trying to think if there's any particular props that I would like in this one. Is there anything that you would be interested in?
Yeah, so I like the Pelicans when you're grabbing them plus all of those points. But as it comes down here, I'm kind of leaning more towards Detroit in this. But I do think Zion Williams' point total looks a little low. It's only at 19.5. And with the lack of defense here that the Pelicans play in the paint, they're going to have to really count on Zion Williams to be able to keep this one if they can within the number. So I'm expecting a solid night out of him. I take him over the 19.5 points. At 7.5, I don't love it, Tera. But if we do see a run in this game where you're able to get them plus the 9.5, closer to that original number, that's where I jump here on the Pelicans.
I like that. I like that there with him. I like Zion's. I think what you're saying makes sense. Talked about Derek Queen last week. I think maybe Derek Queen with the over on rebounds is interesting on that one as I look. He's very up and down on rebounds, very not a ton of consistency there. Last game there against Houston was down to just 4 rebounds here. So we'd be looking for a nice bounce back here. Consistently over time, he has been hitting the over on that one. I think this is a good matchup for that. That is I don't mind that at all. And that's a pretty decent offensive expectation from both teams on this one, even though the line or the spread there is 9.5. Little movement there.
Yeah.
And then the other, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's interesting to note when you look at the Detroit Pistons at home, they're really solid, like top 5 defense in the paint there. They get out there on the road, Tera, and they're not as solid, right? They fall out of that top 5. They allow those points to come in the paint. So I think we're going to see the New Orleans Pelicans be able to keep it tight.
Makes sense. And then we had one more game that we did not cover. It was the Bucks versus the Thunder there. Thunder, again, I see that the ones that we were, we've got these higher spreads here. Bucks and Thunder's 11.5-point favorite when I did this. Looking here just to see if we have any line shifts on that one.
I'm seeing some 12.5s out there right now. The books are kind of split, 11.5 and 12.5s.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. And then we've got the point total on that one at 224.5. That has not moved. That's good. But yeah, we've got a lot of lean on that. This is actually, now that I look at this one, because I was very honed in on the props from the other games. But now that I look at this one is actually pretty interesting. In terms of opportunity for with the spread being 11.5 here. The Bucks taking the dog on that one. The over here with it just being at 224.5 seems like a very popular bet on that one as well. What are your thoughts on this game?
Okay, so firstly, I expect these teams to get off to a fast start, but things to kind of slow down in the second half. So this is a live betting opportunity. I do think if we see that total inflate as they start off a really hot first couple of minutes there, because ultimately at the end of the day, I think the defense will show up at some point in this game. Mm-hmm. The Milwaukee Bucks, I wanted to take their team total under 106.5, but again, if it's a hot start here, if the Bucks can put some points on the board right away at home here versus OKC, I think that we'll get a better number. So this is when I got flagged. I want that better number, Tara, but I could see it staying under the 224.5. I think though we'll get a number of 229.5, right? And that's what I'm looking for. I want to go over. I want to go under when it's at that point.
Yeah, I think that makes a whole lot of sense there in terms of movement. Jumping back to the chat here, we got the Light Bearer 459. What's up? Glad you caught the live show as well. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you there as always here. As a reminder, guys, you can get so much betting content from BettingPros, and one of the awesome places to get that is from the Daily Juice. It is an amazing podcast, so tune into the Daily Juice podcast to get Matt Peralt's top picks and props across all major sports every single day in 15 minutes or less. You cannot beat that. So as a reminder there, just remember to check out the Daily Juice on BettingPros YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your podcasts and start winning today. All right, jumping back here. Let's see. Do we have any? We've got a comment here from Rich Mabee. Do you like the over in the Cavs and the Hornets on that one, Joe?
The Cavs and the Hornets game. I think I'd have to go over. I think I'd have to go over the 237.5. Like, it is high. We've seen a little bit of movement up to 238.5. There are some books that still have the 238. So again, a live betting situation, I think, would be in play when we have these high totals like this. Highest total on the board. I think you wait that first couple minutes. You hope that these teams get off to a slow start. A couple missed baskets out there, you're going to see this total drop. And we know how dead on the books are. 236 was the opening line on this. I'd wait a couple minutes and see if you can get a better one.
Yeah, we're closing in. We got about 16 minutes to go on that one here. I think that makes a ton of sense. We talked about that game a little bit earlier when I talked about Miles Bridges, the over on his points, rebounds, and assists there at 26.5. I think it's just a general, a couple of favorable matchups there on that one. So I do like that. It's interesting. But yeah, I think as we kind of close in on the game and then the live betting makes a ton of sense there as well.
Absolutely. I'm just seeing some numbers starting to move. The Nets and the Knicks. It's gone down to 219.5 on one of the books, Tara. The rest of the books are at that 220.5. So starting to see a bit of movement in that game as well. I'm shocked by that.
Yeah, that's very. I'm checking here as well. That's interesting. Lots of movement right here before. Very interesting. Let me see if there's any more that we're seeing shifting here. Any others that you're interested in?
Well, that total between Toronto and Sacramento, it was 222.5 at opening. That's been bet up to 226.5 is the highest number I'm seeing. We just did see Hard Rock drop it to 225. So they were 225.5 just a second ago, but there's 226.5 out there as well. So lots of differences in that line. There is a 224.5 as well. It's not an offshore book either. So if you like an over, that 224.5 is alive. It's a couple points higher than that opening, but the rest of the books have it as high as 226.5, Tara. So shop those lines, you guys. I would jump on the over 224.5.
Makes a ton of sense there. Let's see here. So we've covered all of the games here. I was going to see if there's any interesting other. I mean, there's obviously I was going to say with college if there's anything else, but there's like 5,000 other things there that we could look at with college sports. Let's see if there's any basketball ones that we can see there as well. Because we've got the good thing about colleges is that we've got quite a few live while we're going.
Did you have any thoughts on Pepperdine and Gonzaga?
I have not looked at them.
Yeah, it's a 28.5 point spread here and a total of 149.5. Is a little nervous to lay it with Gonzaga. And I know people say Gonzaga. That's my Tera.
I say both.
Yeah. If you don't know, I was born in Australia though. So like the vowels all sound like totally different in my mind when I'm going to say them. And I say them one way and I never say them the right. But Gonzaga, that hard A is a hard thing. 28.5. I still think they can cover it, but I think Pepperdine's going to push the pace in this one. They're going to make those mistakes, turn over that ball, and Gonzaga will be able to capitalize. So I'd look at it the over 149.5.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Let's see. We have some other ranked teams that are playing tonight as well that you guys can look at that are there's a football, I almost said kicking off again, that are tipping off here in literally 13 minutes here. We've got Maryland and number 11 ranked Illinois is one that you could look at. We already talked about North Carolina and Notre Dame there. Let's see. We've also got... We talked about Arizona and Cincinnati there. No, we didn't talk. We talked about Arizona State, didn't we?
Oh, yeah, we did. Arizona State.
Yeah. We did not talk about Arizona there. Arizona, as obviously when you're looking at teams playing Arizona, that's one of those weird ones where everything is always extremely lopsided. You're going to get high point totals. Betting the dog on that one is not a bad thing just because a lot of times it's extremely lopsided on that one. We've also got Washington, number 7, Nebraska. You mentioned Gonzaga. Now I've got that in my mind to make sure I say Gonzaga. I think I switch back and forth on that one. I'm not very particular on it.
Yeah, it's a hard. Those A's are a really hard thing for me, you guys. So don't shoot me when I say it the opposite way. But I think they can cover that. But I think it's a higher scoring one, Tara. It should be a fun game to watch, especially if you're a Gonzaga fan.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Any other questions, chat? Because we are closing in on the end of the show here. And we can go through, let me see if there's anything with NBA that we can circle back here as well. I think we did cover everything pretty closely there, though.
Yeah, I think we did too. I was just trying to look at that Cincinnati, Arizona total and what we can get the best line on that, because 152.5 is the majority of the books sitting there at that. I think it's a little high, Tara. I think we're going to see a lower scoring game in that. So if you guys can get a 152.5, 151.5, I'm still comfortable with it because some of the books do have that 151.5. But I think we're going to see defense really come to play in that game.
Makes a ton of sense there. Looking at some other potentially favorable bets for NBA, I'm seeing some Luka Garza over 13.5 points, plus rebounds on that one. Yeah, it is a plus matchup there for him. He's been hitting the over on that one. So favorable line. We get a nice odds there at 107. So at minus 107 there. So yeah, that is a very interesting one. Any thoughts on that one?
No, honestly, I don't have any thoughts on that one. Sorry, Tara.
No, that's cool. I'm just going through and looking to see if I can pull
Yeah.
some additional ones here last minute for the chat. Dyson Daniels, I'm saying, is another favorable one, over 12 and a half total rebounds plus assists there. Obviously, that one is kind of injury induced there in terms of the over for him with the injuries that they are dealing with there. So yeah, Dyson Daniels playing a little bit more, played in 5 of the last 6 games where they've had injuries to multiple players. So that's one that you can look at if you're looking for something a little bit more under the radar there. We talked about jumping back to, jumping back to some additional favorable bets. We already covered Memphis and Atlanta, but I am seeing, which is interesting because I'm seeing a lot more leans towards Memphis on this one.
Okay. That's interesting to see. I think Memphis has the ability, right? Versus the Atlanta Hawks. I think if Ja steps up, we're in for a solid night. I want to ask you though, BettingPros app got anything on Giannis tonight for his rebounds? Because he's been able to really get those rebounds versus the Thunder. He's had 12 plus rebounds in each of his last 6 appearances against the Thunder.
That was literally the next player that was going to pop up for me, but it was on points there. So on rebounds, let's see there. And this is why I love BettingPros, always looking at the prop analyzer. It's just so quick there. On rebounds, we are getting, good call, on that one. The projections are showing nearly over 2 points there. It's got a consensus line is 9.5 rebounds there. Projections are 11.1 on that one. Got a nice 4-star betting on that one. Coming off of a big game there. Coming off of a big game there with 17. And he's been, it looks like it's leaning a bit more favorable in this one. It's been obviously been hitting the unders in quite a few of those there. But as long as the matchup has been favorable there, we've been nailing the overs by a lot on that one. So I do think this is one where he could come over on that one.
Okay, let's go with Giannis there for a strong night. And then I was looking at Scotty Barnes as well for his assist for the Toronto Raptors tonight versus the Kings. He's been solid at getting those assists versus the Western Conference. We've seen 6 or more assists in each of his last 13 games versus the Western Conference. So I'm seeing plus money, 6 plus assists, right around that plus 108 mark, Tara.
Yeah, I like plus money on that one. We're getting a lot of positive reads on him in general. So I like that one a lot as well. Assist on that one. Get positive on, under on points there, but over on assists does make a ton of sense there. And he is projected to hit the over on that one. Like the money on it for sure. But yeah, any other ones that you wanted to cover there?
Okay. Any love for Southern Utah versus Utah Valley? Okay, because Southern Utah, they're in the first half at home. They have been moneymakers. They've won their last 6 at home in the first half. They're plus 275 on the money line in the first half. So I love those trends, Tara, especially a trend with a home dog.
I can get on board with that one. I love that you close us out there with a good college bet as well. I'm gonna lean with you on that one. I can get on board with it for sure.
Okay, awesome.
All right, guys. If you got any last questions, drop them in the chat here. We are going to go ahead and recap our bets here as we close out the show. And just a reminder there, guys, as well as we are closing out here. Appreciate you all tuning in, and also. We do betting across all major sports there. So if you are a football fan, we're going live during another NFL playoff game. This time it will be Seth Woolcock and Scott Bogman at 4 p.m. EST this Sunday for first half betting live stream as the New England Patriots take on the Denver Broncos there. Now that one, I think in terms of like in-game live betting, that's going to be a really interesting one for sure. Because for all we know, Jared Stidham gets out there and actually, is able to competently lead. I don't feel like it's going to happen, right? I would not place my money initially on that, right? But that's maybe why it would be a nice live betting situation there in case we get some very interesting playing up from the Broncos in that, and maybe they play a little bit inspired there as they lose. Poor Bo Nix. That was just so awful. That was heartbreaking. Was really, really looking forward to seeing this battle between him and Drake May there. So to get that one, rarely like when you get those. And first of all, we didn't see it live. So the injury coming through afterwards, like literally one of those announcements that like makes your heart drop of like, oh my God, I cannot believe like, oh, absolutely awful.
Absolutely brutal. But Tara, I want to say you got to look at Denver's defense to get to Drake May, though. Nick Bonito in that last game, the amount of sacks he was able to put out there. And Drake May versus Houston Texans was sacked, 5 times in that game? Nick Bonito will be making my card this Sunday, that's for sure.
That makes a ton of sense there. So again, that's a great recommendation there. And again, guys, they will be tracking live line movement, real-time breakdowns, betting odds, live calling out bets as the game unfolds. So make sure that you get in there before kickoff and catch them live on BettingPros YouTube channel at youtube.com/bettingpros. It'll be a fun one there. All right, jumping back here, we're going to do a quick recap of our bets here because we gave out, as we did last week, and we will continue to do, we give you 2 NBA bets and 2 college bets there, each one of us. So we'll recap here. Joe, we'll start off and recap your bets there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking at Peyton Pritchard over 4.5 made assists tonight for the Boston Celtics. And you guys, I'm really feeling confident with this one. I'd ladder him all the way up to 8+ assists. You're getting that at +250. Then I'm going to turn to the Memphis Grizzlies and look at Ja Morant to have a solid night to go over the 19.5 points. I think he's in for a solid night here versus the Hawks team that he's really been able to put the points up against. 27 points in the last 3 meetings versus the Atlanta Hawks. And then we've seen him go over this number in 3 of his last 4. Then looking at the college basketball, I've got to grab the dogs here. I've got Memphis +5.5 versus Tulsa. If they can limit their turnovers and get McDaniels to sink those shots from the perimeter, we're going to see them be able to keep it within this number. And then Tulane +10.5. This is a defense that plays a lot of zone and does frustrate the pick and roll kind of system. Florida Atlantic plays. So Tulane +10.5, Memphis +5.5, Ja Morant over the 19.5 points, and Peyton Pritchard over the 4.5 assists, Tara.
Love it. All very savvy bets. I am very excited to see how all of those play out. And then I will recap my bets here for you guys. First one I had was Zach LaVine over, what we read that? Over 18.5 points on that one there. Again, the reason for that was obviously with Zach LaVine. We've had a lot of unders hit from him there, but we have seen this line shift down here to a level that we feel a little bit more comfortable about. Also, again, a big reason why, again, coming off back-to-back here, there's not a ton of trends in terms of his performance back-to-back, but we did have him in limited minutes in the game, the last game there. So playing just 6 minutes in the second half there. So we should get him fresh legs, looking for the bounce back here. We got a really nice line here. So I like the over on his points there. And then the second NBA bet that I had was Miles Bridges over 26.5 points plus rebounds plus assists there. Again, on this one, this is one where we're seeing the line shift down to where it had previously been there. So that's the reasoning on that one. It's down to a level where I feel a little bit more comfortable because he's been hovering around. He's not been crashing in terms of the unders there. We've got a nice favorable matchup here. We've also had him hit the under in a couple of previous games there, but those were on limited minutes. We should get him back in a far more competitive game here where this one will be close and we won't see or have to risk him dipping below 30 minutes here. We'll get him back to a normal level here in a nice competitive game. And then we were talking about college there. I had Notre Dame at Atlanta. I like to lean towards the points on this one, the over at 148.5. I would love to bet North Carolina to cover, but I just can't trust them. So my lean here and my preference there is towards the points. I think that, again, we've seen an uptick in offensive efficiency from North Carolina recently here, and Notre Dame can be inconsistent, but they can definitely take advantage of this inconsistent North Carolina defense there. Then we had Virginia Tech at Syracuse. I had the over on that one at 151.5 on that one. Again, this line, we saw some shifts there in movement there, but we recently had a player return to health there for Virginia Tech. Finally, he's looking like he's in rhythm, playing regular minutes there. So we're going to see an increase in offense here that is really going to push up the pace of this game a little bit here in order to hit the over on that one. 151 is a little lofty, I know, guys, but trust me on that one. I'm feeling positively about it. But outside of that, I appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you so much for joining us talking NBA and college basketball betting here. It has always been a pleasure to be with you. Appreciate the chat and dropping your information in there as well. For Joe Madden, I'm Tera Roberts. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will talk to you again next week. Happy bets, guys.